The glass walls of my office reflected the morning light, washing everything in a pale golden hue. From where I sat, behind a desk carved from dark walnut wood, I could see the skyline of New York stretching endlessly. People often told me this view screamed success. But to me, it was a silent reminder of the nights I spent questioning whether I'd ever belong in this city at all. I adjusted the cuff of my silk blouse, tracing the pearl button with my thumb, when my phone buzzed. The email subject line made me freeze. Job application, Margaret Hale. The name hit me like a ghost. My heart thudded, my breath caught, and for a moment, I thought I'd imagined it. But no, it was there, clear as daylight. Margaret Hale, my high school English teacher. The woman who once looked me dead in the eye and told me, "You'll fail in life, Emily. Girls like you never make it far."
And now?
She was asking for a position at my foundation. I leaned back in my leather chair, running a hand across my temple. The irony was sharp, almost cruel. I had built this foundation from the ashes of every rejection, every humiliation, every word that once cut into me. And now the very person who planted that wound was seeking a place under my roof. A laugh slipped out of me, soft but edged with disbelief. Fate really did have a twisted sense of humor. The city outside roared with its usual chaos, but inside my chest, a storm was brewing. I wasn't just Emily anymore. I was Emily Carter, founder, philanthropist, CEO. And she had no idea what was waiting for her. I was 16 when Margaret Hale's words burned themselves into my memory. It was a rainy Tuesday, the kind that left the hallways smelling like wet coats and pencil shavings. I had stayed late after English class to hand in an essay, one I had worked on for nights, pouring every bit of myself into the pages. Writing had always been my secret refuge, even when I felt invisible in every other corner of my life. But when I placed that essay on her desk, Mrs. Hale didn't even glance at it. She looked at me, her lips curling as if I were some mistake she had to endure. "Emily Carter," she said, drawing out my name like it tasted bitter. "Do you honestly think you have what it takes to make it in this world? You can't even string two coherent ideas together without rambling." My cheeks burned. I could feel the other students shifting in their seats, watching the show. My throat tightened, and I clutched the straps of my worn-out backpack like it was the only thing keeping me upright. I tried my best," I whispered. She sighed dramatically, her eyes rolling toward the ceiling. "Your best won't be enough. Girls like you, distracted, ordinary, end up failing in life. That's the truth. And someone should tell you before you waste more time pretending otherwise." Laughter rippled from the back of the class. I felt my hands tremble, nails digging into my palms. The room blurred as tears threatened to fall, but I forced them back. I would not give her the satisfaction. That night, I came home to the tiny apartment I shared with my mother. She was already asleep, exhausted from her second shift at the diner. On the kitchen table sat a chipped ceramic mug filled with pencils and a small leather-bound journal she had given me for my birthday. Inside the cover, in her shaky handwriting, she had written, "When the world tells you who you are, write yourself anew." I traced the words with my finger, the lump in my throat finally breaking into sobs. Mrs. Hale's voice echoed in my head, but so did my mother's words. And between the two, I made a vow. I would not let Margaret Hale write the ending of my story. With that journal in my hands, I began to imagine a different version of myself, one who would rise above the whispers, the laughter, and the dismissals. That night, for the first time, I believed in the possibility of becoming someone more than what my teacher saw. It was the night I quietly promised myself independence. And I would keep that promise. The first years after high school were brutal. While my classmates marched off to college with banners and cheers, I took the subway to a series of part-time jobs, waiting tables, stocking shelves, tutoring kids in math. I barely remembered myself. Every shift left my feet aching and my pride thinner, but every paycheck went into a savings jar I hid under my bed. At night, when the city lights flickered through my bedroom blinds, I opened that leather-bound journal. I wrote goals, lists, messy plans. Some nights I cried onto the pages, Other nights, I sketched dreams so big they scared me. Opportunity came quietly, almost by accident. A customer at the diner, Mrs. Lorraine Whitfield, noticed me scribbling notes during my break. She was in her 60s, silver hair tucked into a bun, eyes sharp as glass. She asked what I was writing. I nearly slammed the journal shut, embarrassed, but she pressed gently until I told her I wanted to build something that mattered. Instead of laughing, she nodded. I see potential in you, Emily. Potential most people overlook. Don't waste it. She became my first mentor. Lorraine taught me about community organizing, about how small actions ripple into big change. She invited me to shadow her nonprofit meetings, let me sit quietly in the back, absorbing every word. I was terrified but also alive. For the first time, I saw a path I could walk. The road wasn't smooth. I failed at grant applications. I stumbled through speeches. Some nights, the weight of bills threatened to crush me. And yes, Mrs. Hale's words returned in the dark. You'll fail in life. But then came small wins. The first after-school program I organized had only 6 kids, yet seeing their faces light up gave me more fuel than any paycheck ever could. A year later, I won a modest grant, just enough to rent a tiny office with flickering lights and peeling paint. I worked 12-hour days, fueled by instant coffee and sheer will. Social media helped me grow quietly. I posted about our projects, but never the full truth of the struggle. My friends saw smiling photos of me handing books to children, not the nights I fell asleep on the floor, too tired to climb into bed. Even my mother thought I was just volunteering a lot. I kept my real dreams hidden, nurturing them like fragile seedlings. By 25, the seedlings had sprouted. Our literacy programs had expanded into 3 neighborhoods. Donations began trickling in, then pouring in. Corporations wanted to be associated with us. And suddenly, I was no longer the waitress with a hidden journal. I was the founder of the Carter Foundation, an organization built to give kids the very opportunities one once lacked. But I never forgot where it started. Every milestone, our first $1 million donation, our first national award, was written in the margins of that old leather journal. And every time doubt crept in, I'd flip back to the first page and read my mother's words. When the world tells you who you are, write yourself anew. I did. And I wasn't done writing yet. The morning Margaret Hale walked into my building, the air felt thicker, heavier, as if even the walls knew what was about to unfold. My assistant, Claire, poked her head into my office. Emily, your 11 o'clock is here, Ms. Hale. She's early. I nodded, masking the surge of adrenaline that rushed through me. My palms tingled, but I kept my expression calm. Send her in when she's ready, I said. From behind my glass wall, I watched Margaret step into the reception area. She was older now, graying hair cropped close, lines etched deep into her forehead. She clutched a modest purse to her chest, her shoulders slightly stooped. Not the imperious figure who once towered over my teenage self. She didn't recognize me yet. When Claire ushered her in, Margaret's eyes immediately darted around the room. My office was expansive, lined with shelves of books and awards, the walls adorned with artwork donated by children from our programs. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, sunlight pooling over the Carter Foundation emblem carved into glass. Her gaze lingered on it. This foundation, she said softly, it's impressive. I leaned back in my leather chair, fingers steepled. Thank you. We've worked hard to build it. She smiled nervously, lowering herself into the seat across from me. I read about the position online. Outreach coordinator. It's exactly the kind of work I'd love to do. I've had a hard few years, and I want to give back now. Her voice cracked on the last sentence. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. I tilted my head, studying her. Before we get into details, Ms. Hale, I have to ask, do you remember me? She blinked, clearly caught off guard. Her eyes scanned my face, hesitation flickering across her features.
I'm sorry.
Have we met before? My lips curved into a slow smile.
Yes.
You were my English teacher. At Roosevelt High. Emily Carter. The color drained from her face. Her mouth opened, then closed, like she couldn't quite find air. "Emily. Carter," she whispered, as though the name itself unlocked a memory she'd buried. I nodded, my voice calm, but edged with steel. "You once told me I would fail in life. That girls like me would never make it far." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Margaret's eyes widened, her shoulders stiffening. Emily, I never meant." I raised a hand, stopping her. "Don't worry. You were wrong." I let her sit in the weight of that truth as her gaze swept over the room again. The awards, the framed articles, the team of staff visible through the glass walls. The evidence of my life's work stood around her, undeniable. Finally, I leaned forward. "You see, Miss Hale, I didn't fail. I founded this organization. I built it from scratch to make sure no child hears what I once did in your classroom. Today, the Carter Foundation runs programs across the country. We give kids the tools to write their own futures." Her lips trembled. Shame flickered across her face, mingled with disbelief. I didn't know. I was young, Cruelty doesn't require youth," I said softly. "You broke something in me back then. But you also lit a fire you never imagined. Every insult you threw became fuel. And now, fate has brought you here to ask me for a job." Tears welled in her eyes. She looked down at her hands, wringing them as though she could erase the past by rubbing hard enough. I let the silence linger, savoring the power shift. For years, I had carried her words like scars. Now, the roles had reversed. I was no longer the girl sitting in her classroom, trembling. I was the woman across the desk, steady, composed, and in control. And she? She was just another applicant. Margaret sat across from me, her eyes downcast, fingers twisting the strap of her purse. For the first time in my life, I saw her stripped of the authority she once wielded so easily. "You have an impressive organization," she said quietly, her voice fragile. "And you've clearly proven me wrong. I don't expect forgiveness, Emily. I only ask for a chance to do something meaningful." I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang in the air. My instinct was to revel in the irony, but another part of me, the stronger, steadier part, knew this moment wasn't just about revenge. It was about choice. "Here's the thing, Miss Hale," I said slowly. "We don't hire people just to give them a paycheck. At this foundation, we hire people who believe in second chances, in nurturing the voices of those who've been silenced. That takes more than skills, it takes humility." Her chin lifted slightly, though her eyes glistened. "I understand." I folded my hands on the desk. "If I bring you on, it won't be easy. You'll be assigned to our mentorship program, the one where adults work directly with students who've been told they aren't enough. You'll sit in front of those kids, and you'll have to look them in the eye and give them the encouragement you once denied me." Her breath hitched. "I can do that," she whispered. "And there's more." I paused, making sure she felt the weight of my next words. "Every month, our staff reflects on their own growth. You'll write letters to your younger self, letters of honesty, accountability, and compassion. Those letters will be shared with our team, so we all remember that growth is possible, even for those who once caused harm." Her cheeks flushed. She nodded, slowly at first, then with more conviction. "If that's what it takes, I'll do it." I studied her, searching for sincerity. Behind the lines of regret carved into her face, I saw it, an earnestness that hadn't been there before. Perhaps life had humbled her in ways I'd never know. "I'll give you the chance," I said finally. "But understand this. I am not the girl you once belittled. I don't need your approval. You'll be working under my leadership, by my rules, in an environment built on respect. If you can't uphold that, you won't last here." Her eyes filled again, but this time with something softer than shame. "Gratitude, maybe." She exhaled shakily. "Thank you, Emily. Truly." I nodded, my voice steady but kind. "Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you've helped a girl like me believe in herself." For a long moment, we sat in silence, the past and present colliding in that office. I thought of the 16-year-old version of myself, the the trembling hands, the hot sting of humiliation, and I realized something I never had before. Power wasn't about revenge. Power was about rewriting the story. And for once, I was the one holding the pen. Weeks turned into months, and Margaret Hale kept her word. I watched her transform in ways I never thought possible. She sat in classrooms with students who carried the same haunted look I once wore, kids told they were too slow, too ordinary, too hopeless. Instead of tearing them down, she built them up. She praised their essays, circled their best lines in red ink, and told them they had voices worth hearing. Sometimes, I'd stand quietly in the doorway and just watch. The same woman who once dismantled me in front of a room full of teenagers was now leaning forward, eyes bright, telling a girl with shaky handwriting, "Your words matter. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." It was surreal, healing even. At the end of each month, Margaret submitted her letters, the reflections I required. They weren't easy to read. Some were full of regret, others brimming with painful honesty. "I didn't realize," one began. "I thought I was teaching toughness, but all I did was plant shame." Another read, "If I could go back, I'd tell 16-year-old Emily that she was already enough." The staff respected her vulnerability. Slowly, so did I. One evening, long after the office lights had dimmed, I sat alone at my desk with my old leather journal open in front of me. Its pages were crinkled now, ink faded, but my mother's words inside the cover remained bold. "When the world tells you who you are, write yourself anew." I smiled, running my fingers over the words. For years, I had carried the sting of Margaret Hale's sentence, "You'll fail in life," like a brand on my soul. But sitting there, I realized the truth. She hadn't written my ending. She had only written the beginning of a story I refused to let her finish. I closed the journal gently and looked out at the city glowing beneath the night sky. The Carter Foundation was no longer just my dream. It was a living, breathing force of change. And in some poetic twist, even Margaret was now part of that mission. Life has a way of circling back, of giving us the chance to rewrite the very pages once stained by pain. As I rose from my chair and shut off the last light, a final thought came to me. Clear, steady, undeniable. She once told me I'd fail in life. Today, she works for my foundation. And that is the most beautiful lesson of all.